¿Me podrían decir si se ve el video, por favor?
Sí se ve.
Se ve y se oye, gracias. Hello again. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where in the world you are listening to us. It gives us great joy to have you again as a big family that gathers and celebrates every 15 days with the aim of having healthier lives, families, and communities. As you know, DFW seeks to solve health problems, but above all, to take preventive actions. On behalf of our steering committee and our team of invaluable interpreters, greeting from your friend Raul Pineda, biochemist, DFW Secretary General from Mexico City, and welcome to our 13th academic session of 2024 and the 93rd DFW Federation Conference Week. Today, November 3rd, 2024, once again, we have an academic session that promised to be unlike any other. Unique, interesting, and innovative. We are streaming live from Zoom platform with a maximum capacity of 100 attendees. For all those who connect later, you can also reach us throughout our Facebook and YouTube Doctors Federation for the World live channels. For 3.5 years, DFW has been founded by people who dedicate their energy, enthusiasm, and time. Some of them have taken on new responsibilities and paths, but they have left a mark that persists in our organization. We consider ourselves a family, the DFW family. And so today, we wish to thank a grateful farewell to Donna G. Itzel Rodriguez Rincon, who passed away 2 months ago. With a degree in communication from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, Donna G. played a fundamental and outstanding role in our last International Healthcare Summit held in November 2024, 22nd. She was responsible for giving us the gift of her time and her knowledge of computer software to develop the official 5-day programs for our summit. Her human qualities, willingness to collaborate, and sympathy accompanied and strengthened us during the weeks leading up to the event. Today, we honor her memory for her legacy of human quality, volunteerism, and exceptional human sense. Thank you, Donna Giselle, for giving us so much of yourself in such a short time. You set an example to new generations of DFW family about the importance of sharing your precious time to improve this planet. To your family and mother, Norberta Rincon, Also a member of DFW Mexico, our condolences and respect, wishing you all serenity at this time. A fraternal and affectionate embrace from all us. Doctors Federation, in short, DFW, is an international organization that over the last 3 years has played a relentless, productive, and important role in 5 continents. DFW has built hope and broken paradigms. Founded in 2020 by Fanny Casalo in Piedmont, Italy, DFW is a non-profit organization which has been endorsed by numerous health specialists from all over the world. Our aim is to address acute and chronic diseases from a pathophysiological point of view, with a long-term approach in which people from 5 continents participate on a voluntary basis. Our innovative, disruptive, and constructive strength has enabled real-time interdisciplinary communication and work of health specialists with a simultaneous translation into 6 languages: English, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, French, and Hindi. Today, you will find a Hindi icon under the Chinese flag. Our mission is focused in providing integrative health solutions for human well-being. Our vision is to become the leading international organization in search for safe, accessible, effective, and efficient treatments and preventive intervention. Our values seek plurality and open equality of ideas and humanity. Our objectives focus on generation of solution of long-term value, as well as close collaboration between clinician researchers and the general public. Finally, our activities have focused in both the communication of monthly preventive health schemes as well as interdisciplinary work with authority and governments. Our physicians around the globe have been using evidence-based medicine approaches to feedback their governments and society with preventive and curative schemes. In this way, we have held 113 lectures with the following profile of speakers: 56 with doctorate level, 39 with master's degree and or specialty, 24 with bachelor's degree. With respect to our worldwide influence, DFW has held 58 conferences in Americas, 33 in Europe, 11 in Africa, 15 in Asia, and 3 in Oceania. DFW is a proactive organization that is recognized for its deep proactive approach to community and long-term collaborative work with governments. It is respectful of local health decisions in each country and does not seek confrontation, the deterioration of any status quo, or the disruption of current health agendas. We focus on academics, doctors, researchers, and other health professional allies. In addition, we target government authorities, health systems, regulatory offices, social media, intellectuals, philanthropists, and civil society. Thanks to the above, in 2022, we managed to integrate our progress in a successful and unprecedented international summit that took place virtually from November 11 to 15, 2022. Thanks to your participation, we integrated the most transcendental academic program in the history of mankind, as it was the largest, including 127 speakers from 73 countries, collaborative with including 4 pillars, plural, 5 continents, and measurable with four social networks such as Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And finally, multilingual, with 5 languages in simultaneous translation. Specialists from all over the world share their knowledge on various topics with the sole aim of improving the living conditions and health of the world's population. Our management is based in 4 main axes or pillars. The first one, clinical practice guidelines, traditional and integrative medicine, impact on communities at risk, and finally, public policies in crisis situation. Finally, DFW is concentrating on strengthening its structure, consolidating its objectives, supporting and receiving support from clinicians, researchers, and academics, sharing our vision and values, as well as joining forces with like-minded medical associations. So we invite you to be part of our family to support our technological structure and translators. At DFW, we are convinced that only by dreaming big, working tirelessly, staying focused, and working surrounded by valuable people like yourselves, we will achieve and exceed our goals. Absolutely all of our broadcasts have been free of charge. However, to maintain the digital services, Zoom, storage capacity, internet, power supply, website, we thank you and thank to our team of interpreters in 5 different languages. We require your support, registration to the official DFW account shown in the slide. We remind you to switch off your microphones during all the session. There will be no live questions to our speaker, but you can interact with them or her throughout the chat box in 6 different languages. To our keynote speaker today, Dr. Rita Denegri, we kindly remind you to keep track of your time with a maximum of total 45 minutes and a following 30 minutes round of questions and answers. We also remind you to speak as low as possible to allow our interpreters to translate properly. Next, our Vice President, Dr. Susan Rush, apologizes for not being able to be today, but she has shared her message that I'm going to read with you all. Let me stop this and share it again. So there it is. There it is. It is such a pleasure to be here once again with your eminent panelist, Rita Denegri. And my message to all those who are listening to us is that we are working with a definition which will reach us to our desired destination. That health is an indicator of our behavior with our environment and restoration of self-healing system of ourselves. The 3 keywords are behavior, environment, and self-healing system. Giorgio, ¿podría apagar su micrófono, por favor? Our behavior with environment will be seen in our health. Therefore, I call it as an indicator. Today, we have one eminent speaker with us to show the path which she have paved to reach to our destination. Our destination is restoration of the self-healing system of ourselves. Integrating various paths to reach the destination is the role played by the Doctors Federation for the World DFW. Integration will also be extended towards the human behavior and the environment, which stand for soil, space, air, fire, and water. At this social structure, we understand that all three functions of our cells, that is, electrical, mechanical, and chemical functions, are directly connected with one and only profession called farming, from where food is produced. To maintain self-healing system of every cell, the cycle of soil to stomach must be maintained. The economic system of cell, the cycle of soil to stomach, of entire humanity must be farming-centered, where food, fuel, and fertilizer are the products which are permanently in demand. Therefore, DFW invites experts from various fields to show their paths to be integrated to achieve the sustainable health and economic systems by modifying the habitats of humans. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker of the day, Dr. Rita Denegri. Chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and anger pose a significant burden on global health systems. The emergence of chronic disease prevention and management, CDPM, as a medical specialty aims to address the challenge by integrating preventive strategies and comprehensive management into patient care. This paper introduced CDPM as a novel discipline that emphasizes the importance of early detection, lifestyle modifications, and personalized treatment plans in mitigating the impact of chronic illnesses. By adopting a multidisciplinary approach, CDPM professionals work collaboratively with patients, healthcare providers, and community resources to optimize health outcomes. The specialty also focuses in research and innovation to develop new interventions and technologies that can enhance disease prevention and management. As CDPM gains recognition and holds the promise of transforming healthcare delivery, reducing healthcare costs, and improving the quality of life of individuals with chronic diseases. So now allow me to introduce you to Dr. Rita Denegri. Let me find her resume. Here. Okay. Dr. Rita Denegri is medical surgeon from the Scientific University of the South in Lima, Peru. She is CEO of 180 Medical Center, natural medicine treatment for chronic autoimmune and inflammatory diseases Institute, and sectional of the Santiago Apostol Fire Department Station at Santiago de Sucro, working in rescue work, fires, and medical emergencies with hazardous materials. She's also providing attention in general medicine office at the municipality of Miraflores in Lima, Peru. So, Rita, welcome, my dear friend. You are very welcome, and the microphones are yours.
Thank you, Raul. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to all the interpreters that do this great volunteer work. And I am just very thankful to be here and to be able to share this information on iodine supplementation because of many reasons. One of them is that the role iodine plays in the body is very important as it plays a role in metabolism, in immunity, and in cancer defense, amongst others. But another very important reason is because we hardly do not get it. Zoom is asking me if I have changed my language because I usually use this application in English. Will it help if I click on it? I'll just click on it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start sharing so we can do this and respect the times that we have established. So if you allow me, for all the interpreters, most of what I will say, I have written down, so it will be easier for you. And I apologize to the people because that means it's a lot of writing in the slides, but we are all trying our very best, right? Right, so there's a global iodine deficiency. It's affecting the whole world. And we're going to understand why and why this is very dangerous. So iodine is one of those supplements that if you are not supplementing it, like actively, you are probably very deficient. Unless you live off the ocean, right? Or you eat seaweed regularly, which basically just stands for people from Japan or China probably, and fishermen, really. So I prepared a little summary. A lot of what we know about iodine, it's in history. We will not find the scientific backup that other supplements have. Mainly the same reason because we won't find it on ivermectin, or we will not find it on chlorine dioxide, is because they're willingly not performed. So we're going to find out what we know about iodine from history, which is very ancient, the discovery of iodine as an element, the Wolff-Chaikoff assumption, which is what actually led to this iodine deficient globally, problems of the supplementation from salt, the iodine bromide paradox. We need to understand that when there's a deficiency in a nutrient, a toxin will get in instead. There is no voids in our body. Bromide toxicity, the practical uses of iodine, and I will show you how to supplement it. The relation or the difference between iodine and radioactive iodine and its relation to cancer. Okay, so let's go. What do we know from history? So of all the supplements I use or recommend, if I had to choose one to take with me to a remote island, it would definitely be iodine because of its absence in the soil. This is an element that will exchange itself very easily by other compounds. In fact, in laboratory, it's used like a stencil element that you will put in a mixture so it will not let another one get in, but then you will wash it. So it works, it exchanges very easily, okay? And there's an abundance of other elements that will compete with iodine to get into our cells. Also, because of the important role it plays in stabilizing our metabolism and immunity. And then we will also learn about its use in cancer, which has been very, very ancient, like Egypt ancient. Its oldest reference, though, it's way before Egypt. Its oldest reference is from 15,000 years ago, when a veterinarian from the University of Chile found a bone that he thought was from a cow, but it turned out to be a mastodon. And this bone, or this fact, triggered excavation that was later found out that was from 15,000 years ago. So in this site, they found a hut, a little house that had 9 species of seaweed and what looked like a pill made for chewing of burnt seaweed ash. So what it's interesting about this site is that the closest ocean was 90 kilometers away, which is about 200 miles. So I'm sorry, 40 miles, 45 miles. So for this population, 15,000 years ago, without the means of transportation that we have now, right? Probably was a mastodon, I mean, of transportation back then. It was important for them to go all the way to the ocean and to get these 9 different species of seaweed for their medicine hut, right? So up to this day, in this place, they still use seaweed to treat some like abscesses and tumors and ulcers. So it's still part of their medicine up until now, 15,000 years ago. So this is the first reference that we have of the use of seaweed as medicine. Okay. And then way before that, the first books to ever be printed were medical books, and they were printed in China, in Egypt, and in India. So I'm sorry, yes, yeah. So in China, it's the Great Herbal Pharmacopoeia of Peng Shaoxing in the dynasty of Emperor Shennong. This was 2,700 years before Christ. And until then, the medical knowledge was transmitted only verbally for generations. So this was the first printing, and they did a very important mention of seaweed in this book almost 3,000 years ago. The other was Evers Papyrus, which is one of the oldest medical treatises from 3,500 years ago. When it was translated to English in 1987, it revealed that the Egyptians used seaweed to treat specifically breast tumors. Nowadays, if you look into iodine supplementation, if you do a quick search in Scholar Google, what you're going to find most, it's its relation and its use in breast tumors. So the Egyptians knew this 3,500 years ago. And in the Ayurveda medicine, the book De la Materia Medica, it's a compilation of remedies, details the use of seaweed to treat parasites and tumors. So how do we pass from seaweed to actual iodine? Oh, and last but not least, in a very more modern era, the Merck Manual, that once was a best-selling medical textbook, cites iodine as the most commonly used substance for tumors. So this is very interesting because it reached modern medicine. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used it to treat what he called a fat neck. And he also would say the sea cures men's illnesses. So how do we go from seaweed to the element, right? Well, nobody can make up a story that it's as magical as the real one. So this will take us back to that time where the elements in the element chart were still being discovered. And how? And when they were discovered, they were usually used in medicine and experimented with. So in 1811, a chemical called Bernard Courtois, who would do saltpeter to make gunpowder for the Napoleonic Wars. He ran out of wood ash. So he started to use kelp ash. Kelp is now used in many iodine supplements. Later, I will explain why I do not recommend seaweed supplements, but I prefer to recommend the actual element. It's because standardization, really. Anyway, so he ran out of wood ash and he had to resort to what he had, which was kelp ash from the shores of Normandy. And when he took this ash and put it in a copper vase and added some acid, he saw a purple haze emerge. And then this purple haze precipitated to a pencil color, graphite color powder. So at this moment, this chemist realized that he had discovered an element. I'm sure he repeated the experiment and got the same results, but he did not have the means to investigate it, so he sent it to his colleagues. And 2 years later, Humphrey David, who is
esse
known
trabalho
for
para
discovering a
os
lot of
colegas
elements,
e esses
but he sent a
colegas
letter to the Royal Society of London,
encontraron un
calling a new
elemento
element
y pasaron una
iodine,
carta, la Carta
which
Real de
means
Sociedad de Londres,
violet in Greek.
llamando un
That's
nuevo elemento.
why
significa
that's where it
viola.
gets its name from.
Quindi
In
ecco
the
da dove
following years,
deriva
you know,
il
this was
nome
used
iodio.
in
Negli anni
multiple
successivi,
diseases, and this is when they linked the relationship between seaweed and iodine, and how it had been all the time the iodine in this seaweed that was responsible for all these ancient medical feats. So that's when it makes a step from seaweed to iodine itself. Between 1820 and 1900, iodine became viral. It was used to treat for so many diseases, and it was even used to purify water. In fact, it reminds me a lot of chlorine dioxide in the pandemic. I've told Raul many times,
क्लोरीन डाइऑक्साइड के बारे
iodine
में
is the
मुझे
chlorine
पता था
dioxide from the 70s, because it was also called a toxic disinfectant after being used for literally thousands of years with great safety. So it was used to treat so many things that Dr. Francis Kelly wrote in the Proceedings of the Royal Society of Medicine. When you write something in the Proceedings of the Royal Society of Medicine or of Physics, like the last person to write something in the Proceedings of the Royal Society of Physics, I think was probably Isaac Newton. So you don't get to write there pretty easily, but Dr. Kelly would say the variety of
डॉक्टर
diseases which
कैली
iodine
कहते
has
थे
been prescribed is astonishing. Paralysis, chorea, scrofula, which is an infection, lacrimal fistula, deafness, spinal, well, there's a
उनके पास
list,
जो भी थे
spinal distortions, joint disease, syphilis,
जॉइंट
gout,
डिसीज
gangrene, dropsy, carbuncle. These were
कार्पास
a lot of infections that were very often, especially because
मुझे बहुत
before
सारी बार आ रहे थे
the hygiene as we know it now, and the use of antibiotics, of course, right?
और वो
With
एंटीबायोटिक्स के
low-burn,
साथ भी यूज
cough,
किए जाते हैं
cold, asthma, ulcers,
एस्मा के
bronchitis, just to name a few. So most of these are either infectious or immune or
इन्फेक्शंस
toxic related. So
के
that's very
साथ
interesting. And a few
वो
years
बहुत
later,
इंटरेस्टिंग है
Dr.
और
Albert
बहुत साल बाद
Fiore, who won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of vitamin C, said that in his time, a popular saying among doctors was, if you know not where or why, use you
अगर आपको
then
पता नहीं
K
है
and
क्यों
I. So
या
this is
कैसे
when I did training in the Gerson Institute in California,
मैं तो
we use this a
कैलिफोर्निया में
lot.
थी
If you know not where or why, use you then K and I. But this saying has been around for a long time for many doctors. It had a great protagonismo. How would you say that? Maybe a translator can help me. But it was very important back in the day, and now
और
it's like
बहुत ही
pretty
जरूरी
much
था
almost absent in modern medicine, right? Okay. So if iodine has been,
अगर
like I was saying,
आयोडाइन इतना
around
आया
so
है
long, why it doesn't have more current medical uses?
तो उनके पास
One of
मेडिकल
the
यूजेस
things
के
that
ज्यादा नहीं हैं
got it out of our reach was the patent for penicillin. Because like many diseases I told you are infections, antibiotics work really well. And after World War II, iodine was considered ancient, and it was
वो बहुत एंशंट माना
step by
जाता
step
था
just used in
स्टेप बाय स्टेप
antiseptics
यूज
of
किया जाता
wounds
था
or
एंटीसेप्टिक बोन्स के
basically
लिए
just
या
antiseptic purposes.
एंटीसेप्टिक
But the fatal
पर्पसेस के
blow
लिए
came when the medical community called it a
जब मेडिकल
thyroid
कम्युनिटी आई
blocker,
थी तब
that it would block your thyroid. And then is when a moratorium began. Before, we were exposed to iodine in two main
और
sources.
पहले
It was bread
आयोडीन के
and
साथ आए
milk.
थे
bread because it was used as a dough conditioner. Everyone used iodine in bread. And milk because it was put in the cow's body and it would pass to cow's milk. And we will get 1 milligram a day of iodine from these sources, like most everyone. And now FDA recommends 150 micrograms, but we used to get 1 milligram, right? So that's a huge difference. Okay, and that's what's called the Wolff-Chaikoff effect. But this effect was discovered so many years ago, like in the 70s, and it has never been questioned. Also, in more than 100 years, that 150 micrograms of daily dose recommendation has not been questioned. And our surroundings have changed greatly. Especially, we are now surrounded with toxins that will compete with iodine. So we are definitely getting a lot less iodine than before and becoming sick from things that would not happen if we were sufficient in iodine. The influence of these conclusions was so great that it perpetuated in medical textbooks up until now without being able to explain why 120 million Japanese do not have their thyroids blocked. These people get anywhere between 2 to 4 milligrams of iodine every day. Like we used to get 1, and that was plenty. That was a lot more than what we get now. They get 2 to 4 milligrams every day. And they seem to be very healthy. They seem to live until they're 100 years, and they seem to have absolutely or virtually not any breast cancer in Japan. In fact, if a Japanese woman that lives in Japan moves to the USA and acquires the SAD, the Standard American Diet, her chances of getting breast cancer multiply 80-fold. So that's something we need to look into, especially because 1 in 8 women get breast cancer, get diagnosed with breast cancer at some point in their lives. So we do need to assess this, right? And anyway, so you cannot explain how iodine would block everyone's thyroid except the Japanese people. And they talk about adaptation, but then again, fishermen around the globe also take iodine from seaweed, which is appropriate if you've done it all your life. If all your life you have been exposed to seaweed as something you eat regularly, you will be sufficient in iodine. But if you're going to start supplemented, you want a more manipulable dose that you can know that you go from this amount milligrams to the next step, right? Okay. And also they have a lot lower prevalence of hypothyroidism. So this really denies the fact that the thyroids are being blocked, right? I will not use, well, I'm not example enough, but I've been using iodine for years and it really changed my life so much that I decided to make this something I would tell everyone, like an important part of my message. I was deficient in iodine because I had a baby and I breastfed for more than 2 years. And this is what takes iodine from women a lot. And that's probably one of the main reasons women after having babies cannot get back to their original weight or energy or even brain. So they are the one that needs it the most, right? And yes, the FDA will tell you that you need not 150 micrograms, but 250 micrograms. But no, you need a lot more than that. Well, so what happened after this? After 1972, iodine was eliminated from bread and flour. The problem is, instead of iodine, you know what they put in flour? They put bromide. Yes, bromide, which is a carcinogenic. And then they put bromide in other way. There was bromide in different things. And I'm glad Raul told you I was a firefighter, because yes, I have been a firefighter for 20 years in Peru. And they put bromide in fire retardants. Like they would mix it with fibers of things that mostly plastics. so it will not ignite. We'll talk about expand on it in a bit. But anyway, in the 60s, a slice of bread contained 150 micrograms of iodine. So one slice of bread contained all the iodine they say we need now from salt. And being present in other sources like milk, like I told you, daily consumption was approximately 1 milligram of iodine, and it was used in a form of iodide for the dough, which is the same thing for bromide nowadays. And it had great absorption, and it was an excellent dough conditioner. In 1970, a report from the Food and Nutrition Board and the National Academy of Sciences indicated that iodine in bread could not be safe and that iodized salt was preferable. And then reported that it was more difficult to obtain medical scans that you would not need to begin with if you were sufficient in iodine, okay? But it was more difficult to obtain these medical scans in the population as it had become more iodine sufficient, and that radioactive iodine showed better images of the people with less iodine. So this is basically telling you something that's very interesting, is that if you have enough iodine, you will not absorb radioactive iodine, which is good. This is a good thing. In fact, when the war in Ukraine started, the price of iodine doubled overnight. It's because it's used in shelters and for protection from radioactive iodine. So that's another reason to be sufficient in iodine. One might say, well, I don't live near Ukraine, so that's probably, something I will not be affected from. But we need to remember that in the Pacific, in the bottom of the ocean and in the near space, they have done over 2,000 detonations of nuclear bombs to practice until it was prohibited in the 80s. And that is many, many times Chernobyl in the amount of curios, which is how you measure this energy. So we are all affected. And after the Fukushima incident, we are all affected. It may be not the morning after, but eventually we will all be affected. Okay, so because this is not going anywhere and it's spreading. And so finally, they suggested that salt iodization remained the gold standard for supplementation. So what's wrong with that? Problems with iodine, that's where we're going. So the iodized salt scam. This is one of the reasons why we have a global iodine crisis, because people think they get what they need from iodized salt. But how much salt do we need? Or how much do we get from salt, really? We don't, it is so misleading, and it's because 3 simple facts. Sorry, my voice is a little bit, I had a cold last week, so I'm a little bit, my voice is a little bit hoarse. Okay, first, 1 gram of salt contains 0.45 micrograms of iodine, right? And FDI says we need 150 micrograms. But this measure is carried out in the factory. By the time it reaches the supermarket, 50% have been vaporized. If you've ever had a bottle of iodine anywhere, you will notice that it will stain anything around it. Like if you put it in a box and then you open the box will be yellow. So iodine will sublimate easily. It will vaporize easily. And this is the yellow liquid. Imagine the tiny amount in micrograms there is in salt. So by the time it reaches your house, the bag of salt has half the iodine it promised. And here in Peru, people usually open the bag of salt and it's open next to the kitchen, so it's easy to reach, so you can put in your foods. 20 days after, it will lose another 50% of what was remaining. So that's one of the reasons why we do not get the iodine from salt in the way they say. The second reason, okay, so let's say you live across the street from the salt factory and you get the freshest package. Salt is sodium chloride and has chlorine, and chlorine is one of the components that will compete with iodine. okay? Because it belongs to the same group of elements in the chart. So they share some characteristics that allow them to use the same receptor, right? So this is why they can compete with each other to reach the receptor and get into the cell. And the other one, at least in my country, salt has fluoride, allegedly because it will make our teeth healthier. Since, yeah, we have fluoride in salt, we've had it for a long time. I have other theories on fluoride supplementation globally, but this is not that kind of lecture. Anyway, fluoride is another
Não é disso que
allergen.
eu tô falando hoje.
Sorry? Fluoride is another allergen that will compete with iodine. So this phenomenon will make that 10% of the iodine in this pack, which we already lost 50, right, is available for absorption. And here is the charts, so you can see how they are in the same group. See, fluoride, chloride, bromide, and iodine, and acetate also. But I'm focusing in these three because they are the ones that compete the most, especially bromide, and these two from the salt pack, okay? So remember that they are in the same group, they're all allergens, and this is why they share similarities that allow them to compete to get into the cell. And the third is that the molecular way that iodine needs to be to really reach into tissues that are not the thyroid should be potassium iodide. Remember, if you know not where or why, use you then K and I. Potassium iodide is the best way to supplement iodine, and it's called Lugol's solution. That's Lugol apostrophe S because it was created by him, Lugol's solution. So the third one, let's say you're a woman and you live across the factory and you also consume half a kilo of salt and for some reason not die from it. Would you say the amount of iodine you ingest is sufficient? Well, perhaps for the thyroid, yes, but for the ovaries and the breast, and in the case of men, for the prostate and the testicles, you need the form of iodide and you need the form of potassium iodide, the way it was found in bread and milk. Therefore, iodized salt is an incorrect way to supplement iodine. It says in women, but it's actually in everyone or in any tissue that is not the thyroid, because not only the thyroid needs iodine. And other ineffective sources would be fish, because you would need 4 kilos a day. And I don't think anyone could eat that much, but also there would be a lot of mercury and plastics. So it would not be a good idea anyway. Well, you'd be creating a different problem. Seaweed, like I said, well, there is a danger now because it's packed with petrochemics and arsenic and radiation, and they are not longer a clean source of iodine. But also because, let's say they were, but they are dehydrated, harvested, encapsulated, so it's less standardized than salt even, right? Because you wouldn't know how long it would sit here and there waiting for transportation, and it would be losing. So the main reason is because you would not be able to know how much you're supplementing, right? And I put this slide in the middle of everywhere because I really wanted to share it. It's dated April 1976. Remember, they took iodine from us in the 70s, like 72 or 70, which it's actually the year where breast cancer started becoming the public health problem it is now, okay? But look what it says. A low dietary iodine may produce a state of increased effective gonadotrophin stimulation, which in turn will produce hyperestrogenic state and characterized by high production of estrogen and estradiol. And this altered endocrine state may increase the risk of breast, endometrial, and ovarian cancer. and increase in dietary iodine intake may reduce the risk of these cancers. All three of them in 1976. So this information has been around. And we just passed the Pink Ribbon Month, which is a month where they, what I sense they do is they just suggest women to get breast scans using radiation to get such breast scans, right? And I don't see any suggestion of supplemented iodine or selenium or anything that really will stop cancer, not just find it, but really stop it. So we should question that because that has to change. Now let's talk about the iodine bromide paradox, which is really the problem. Because like I told you at first, when you're missing a nutrient, a toxin will get in. There are no voids in our body. There's something will be there all the time, okay? So why are we deficient in iodine? Probably because we are intoxicated with bromide. You see, disease will stand in two pillars that are deficiency and toxicity. And many times a deficiency will cause toxicity or toxicity will cause deficiency because they're competing. It's iodine is absent from the Earth's surface because of the melting of the glaciers and pollution and the increase of halogens that displace it. I show again the chart so you remember they belong to the same group, correct? So look at this. Brominated flame retardants in breast milk from the United States. And in the first bullet, it says, brominated flame retardants were detected in 100% of breast milk samples from the US mothers. This is bad. So you come into this world and you take your mom's breast milk and you get bromide. Okay, so this is something we need to pay attention to. What happened, and this is a very creepy story actually, and there used to be some fires in the 70s related to people falling asleep with cigarettes in their hands. And there were two incidents that would cause fires that were very lethal and dramatic at the time. One was people falling asleep with cigarettes because the cigarettes have they have little circles in their paper, right? And these circles are like some sort of gunpowder that will allow the cigarette to smoke itself when the smoker is not smoking it. So it will remain ignited. And these rings are one of the reasons why smoking is so hazardous for health. So the reason they are there is so the cigarette is consumed quicker and the smoker smokes more and they sell more cigarettes. So instead of stopping this madness of putting these rings in the paper, they started putting bromide in the mattresses. So one of the source of contamination of bromide is the mattress you sleep in. They said we should put a fire retardant because, you know, we're having all these fires. And then the other incident was children playing with matches. And they put bromide in the children's pajamas. But they had to stop it because then children would come with acute bromide intoxication in the 70s to the ERs and they stopped producing these pajamas, okay? But maybe in the 70s, when the houses were made of wood and actual organic, like your sofa was made of actual cotton or just organic things, that yes, they will burn, but not as fast. Maybe back in the day, putting a fire retardant in these fibers would retard the fire a little bit. But now that everything is polyester and everything is plastic, like as firefighters, we know that what in the 70s maybe took 30 minutes to ignite a whole room, today it takes 3 minutes. So today is pointless to have brominated fire retardants. It's only useful as a source of contamination for everyone. And that is why many countries are stopping this, well, mainly in Europe. So kudos to you guys because you're ahead of everyone in everything. In South America, we're mostly waiting for the Americans to do it first, along with many other tendencies. So anyway, in the picture on the right, you can see how we excrete iodine. So you need to break this idea you have in your mind that it will only go to your thyroid, that it will block your thyroid, because it's everywhere and it's excreted in breast milk abundantly, right? But in many other organs, as you can see, and then we're going to see more evidence of that. But especially in women's breast, okay? So this is, we need to, all the ladies, you need to supplement your iodine, all the gentlemen as well. And this is the Chamacos study that says, conclusions, both prenatal and childhood bromide exposures were associated with poorer attention, fine motor coordination, and cognition in the Chamacos study. So that's it contributes, it has adverse impacts on child neurobehavioral development. So this is just from breast milk. So breast milk has become something that gives us impacts, adverse impacts on child neurobehavioral development. So this is bad, right? We should definitely stop this madness. Let's look at iodine receptors. The iodine receptors are called symporters, and they are transport proteins that will uptake iodine into the cell using a sodium gradient. However, bromide can use these symporters as well. So that's the reason why I put this up, so you can see that bromide can also get into the cell instead of iodine, okay? And the iodine doctors that we call ourselves iodine doctors, we believe that, for example, the immune disease of the thyroid is actually your immune system acting against bromide and not against the organ, but against the bromide in it, right? This is a 36-year-old female patient with papillary thyroid carcinoma. So when they give them the radioactive iodine and they see that it picks up in the breast, they thought it was a second tumor. But then the PET scan classified it as a false positive. So this is just proof that the breast will intake iodine as well, and not only the thyroid, and as well as in men. In fact, see the gastric chamber uptakes a lot of iodine. When you start supplementing, you can do it two ways. You can use Lugos, which is a drop, just drops that you take with water, and you can use pills, Yodo. I will show them to you in another slide, don't worry. When you use the liquid form, and you need to go very slowly because you're going to be excreting and getting rid of a lot of bromide, and you do not want to do this quick because it can be uncomfortable for the patient, right? But if you do, you can get gastritis, and we call it bromic gastritis, right? But if you take the pills that have enteric coating, you will not, because they will be coated up until the intestine. And intestines, you see, do not uptake as much iodine as the stomach does, okay? So this is another false positive that was later proved by a PET scan, but it shows us, yes, they are in the salivary glands, in the thyroid, of course, but also in the gastric chamber and in the prostate. So let's go back to women, because this is such a prevalent disease that have killed so many beloved mothers and daughters and sisters of ours. But there's a reflection I want to make on breast pain. Breast pain is never normal, because pain, it's a pathological state, always. It's a way of our body to tell us something, right? Maybe always. I was going to say maybe after the gym, but it's telling you that you actually broke a lot of muscle fibers. So it's always, pain is always pathological. So if you go to the doctor and you say my head hurts or my nose hurts or my foot or whatever part of your body hurts, they will try to investigate what's wrong with you. But if you go into the doctor and say my breast hurts, they're going to say it's normal. It's so normalized that it's called the benign fibrocystic breast disease, and it's called a normal disease. But that is an oxymoron. There is no such thing as a normal disease. There are diseases that are common. 100 years ago, syphilis afflicted 50% of the European population, and no one suggested syphilis to be normal. So if there's a problem in your breast now, it's very likely to be a benign fibrocystic breast disease, and it's benign today. But this sets the molecular state for it to become cancer in a few years. So when I get patients in my office and I ask them, do you have breast pain in the middle of your cycle? Okay, it's not a problem today. Maybe benign fibrocystic disease is not a problem today, but in 20 years, it can definitely become breast cancer. And the association has already been linked lately. And today we know that benign fibrocystic breast disease has women who have this have 80% more probabilities of having breast cancer later in life. So we need to take care of this problem. And if you do a quick search today on the relationship between iodine and breast cancer, you're going to find 205,000 results. When we started this, when I started looking into it 8 years ago, you would find 3,000. So this is wonderful, really, because it's being looked into a lot more. It's only being related to breast cancer now, but I'll show you later how it is related to all types of cancer because it's related to your immunity. Anyway, so there you are. You can do your own quick search and go into this rabbit hole. And they talk about Japanese women. Anyway, so there is a link. Let's talk about bromide toxicity so we can avoid it. So how will you become contaminated with bromide in your immediate environment, unfortunately? So you cannot become, I mean, you could move to a rock cave in the middle of nowhere, and that would be great. But if you're not willing to do that, you need to take iodine to protect yourself from bromide, okay? The greatest exposure is from BFRs, the brominated fire retardants, that probably made sense in the 70s, but today they are completely pointless. Besides, today we have smoke detectors. We have so much other different technology that we can use than put in this carcinogenic in every fiber, in every upholstery, sofa, carpet, the curtains, everything has it on it. And it's mandated because fire retardant, right? So anyway, and they are in every car from the 70s and in every car from the 2000 for South America, at least, mattresses, children's pajamas, that's not anymore there, electronic devices, children's toys, everything. So these dust and fibers are released and we inhale it, and that's how it gets to our system. It used to be in our food. It stopped being in our food 3 months ago. It has been there since the 1920s until 3 months ago. And when I was updating this presentation, I found out because I hadn't been updating it 3 months ago. But anyway, brominated flour, I mean, they just named it at safe. Let's see how long it takes to actually get it out of the food. Like up until today, it's still in the food. It's not allowed to be, it's not encouraged anymore, but it's still there. So at least here in my country, unless it says bromide free, it has bromide. If it has flour, if it has wheat flour, it has bromide. Okay. And also it's brominated vegetable oil is used in citrus drinks. And the other day I was doing this presentation, and just for fun, I started talking to the artificial intelligence and I asked, does Gatorade has bromide in it? And it said, no, bromide is a toxic, blah, blah, blah. Not even the G series. And then it said, oh, yes. So I thought that was funny. Anyway, the G series of Gatorade has brominated vegetable oil. So imagine if you feel so healthy going out to train and you have some bread and a Gatorade for breakfast, you are messing with all your metabolism, thinking you're having a healthy morning. In 2012, Pepsi announced that they would get rid of it from all of their drinks, but up until 2019, it was still in all of their drinks. And here is what it says, April 2018, brominated vegetable oils may be safely used So there you have it. This is the official, like if you look up, these are public documents, so you can look them up. In 2018, the FDA did not consider bromide in foods a health problem, but then they are very stretchy about these criteria. But in the United Kingdom, it was banned since 1990. That's a long time ago. And Sweden is very aggressive banning bromide in flame retardants since it's banned. The amount of bromine found in breast milk has decreased. So even if we start today, we're not going to get rid of it, well, overnight. So we really need to start doing it. And then they're just promoting to have mattresses made without bromide fire retardants, right? Especially because we can use smoke detectors and many other means to detect a fire. And this is what I told you. I just found it. The FDA no longer allows for the use of brominated vegetable oil in food. On July 3rd, 2024, the FDA revoked its food additive regulation. Well, thank you. That only took you 80 years. Anyway, the agency concluded that the intended use of BBO is no longer considered safe after studies, blah, 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 what the United Kingdom knew since 1990. But there we go. This is how science works, and that's why we're all here doing it ourselves and just, taking care of each other. BBO has been used as a food ingredient since the 1920s. How many people may we have loved to bromide in all these times, right? Well, let's go back to iodine. The practical uses of it. So how do you know if you're deficient? If you're not supplementing it, you're probably deficient because of the reasons I have explained. Because there's the salt is not an effective way of supplementing it, and because you have bromide all around you competing with for the receptor. So you will know if you were deficient as you start getting better of different things when you start supplementing it. You start supplementing it and then the allergies are gone and the brain fog. This is huge. This is huge. I remember when I started supplementing iodine after having my child, and it was so difficult for me to read. Like I would open the book and then I say, okay, I'm going to study. And then 10 minutes went by and I was just looking at a letter. And there was something with my brain. When I started taking iodine, I felt so on fire. I read 2 books in 1 week. This was huge for me. Dry skin, cysts, fatigue, fibromyalgia, menstrual irregularities. It's going to be very present in, whatever's in reproductive organs, breast pain, cold tendency. That's also one that was huge for me. I was always colder than everyone else. Gum infection, psoriasis, depression, spontaneous abortions, prostate disease. And we need to address also that many of these problems are multifactorial, but then you need to start taking the supplementation, and whatever that goes away was probably caused by the deficiency. So it's implicit, really. And what they used it for in the past, amongst the things we have mentioned, there is, of course, goiter, atherosclerosis, syphilis, uterine fibroids, mercury, lead, and arsenic poisoning, and snake bite. This has to tell you the ability it has for detoxification, right? Prostatic hypertrophy, obesity, depression, obesity. It's very necessary not only to build muscle, but also to the correct use of fats in the body. Breast pain, malaria, cysts, rheumatism. And tiny cough. It says cough in there. I don't know why it's tiny, but pulmonary diseases, also asthma. When you start taking iodine, you're going to experience some bromide detoxification and a lot of types of different detoxifications. But the frequencies are eyelid tremor. This is very weird because it's pretty intense eyelid tremor. Arc pain, the arc of the foot, I don't know why, it starts hurting a lot. Gum pain, very severe. Negative thoughts. because when you're flushing out bromide, it's a neurotoxin. And in fact, there was a treatment in the 1920s that was called bromide sedation. And it was given to women that thought to be hysterical. So it will, tune down you neurologically. Kidney pain also. I've had patients have extreme gum pain. And the good news is it will all go away with salt. Plain salt, okay? Make sure it has no fluoride in it, though. Try to find fluoride-free salt. But kidney pain, it will probably, some patients believe that they had back pain, like lumbar pain, because it was all normal, and then they took some salt and it went away, okay? So this will appear. The program should be I do it very slowly. I have them, I use the drops, I use Lugol's, and I have them start with one drop, put one drop in water and drink it in the mornings. And then I'll teach you later how is the way you do it, because then you need to take some salt. But the best way to avoid this is just to do it slowly. You don't need to do it quick. But then remember that is all caused by bromide, okay? And also because iodine works in so many levels, you're not only eliminating bromide, you're eliminating perchlorate and just many other toxins, and it has an anti-tumor, antimicrobial, and antiparasitic, and elimination of heavy metals. So it causes several types of detoxification simultaneously. That's why it should be done slowly, okay? They say the quickest way to get somewhere is going slowly. So here's the protocol. I use Lugol's 2% to 5%. One drop of 2% will be 2.5 milligrams, and one drop of 5% will be 6.5 milligrams. That is a lot. That is far from the 150 micrograms they want to have as taken from salt. Yodorol is the registered way that has the enteric coating. People tolerate that better, yes. And there's two presentations, 12.5 milligrams or 50 milligrams. You're going to need to take, if you're starting, you're going to need to take magnesium and vitamin C just to maintain the receptors healthy, to help them restore from all those years of bromide intoxication. And what you will definitely need, or the most important aspect, is sodium. So you need a 1/4 of a teaspoon followed by water. So it's just a pinch of salt. You take one drop of iodine in water, and then take a pinch of salt and drink water. In the Gulf War, I don't know if you have this reference, but the soldiers were given pyridostigmine bromide when they were going out to be protected from the gas bombs. And when they came back to get rid of the bromide they just gave them, they would just put them plain salines in their veins. So there were huge tents with lots of little beds with a lot of soldiers getting salines, just regular salines. So it's known to be a bromide detoxifier, sodium, but you need iodine to get it out of the cell. You need iodine to get the bromide out of the cell. And once it's out of the cell, you take salt, and then it will flush it through your kidneys. This is one of the few detoxifications that will not use the liver, but it will use the kidneys. So you do need to be very careful if you have kidney insufficiency. Maybe obviously monitored by a doctor very closely. In my patients, I have them recover from the insufficiency first, and then do a detox that will go through the kidney. But okay, so you need salt. Basically, it's iodine and salt. It's you should also use selenium. I did not put it here, but you should also use selenium that works with iodine, and it will distribute it throughout the body. And if the detox symptoms persist, like you take the drop of iodine and you take a little bit of salt, great. But you're still having a trembling iodine, take a little bit more of salt. And if it doesn't stop, then you stop iodine for 3 days and start again, okay? And then just remember, 1 drop of 2%, start with the tiniest, start slowly, work up your way. I will increase a drop every 2 weeks if everything's fine. And just be very patient because, and then when you reach, people should use 12 to 50 milligrams for 4 months to get rid of all the bromide in your system. So you just need to work up your way and work up your way. Is there a way to do it more standardized? Yes, you could dose iodine in urine. And what will happen is at first, you take the amount you choose, like 10 milligrams, and then you measure it in the urine. And you will realize that as the days go by, you will eliminate less and less because it's absorbing more, because the symporters are healing, and because you are replacing. So you can do that in such way as well. And once there's none in urine, you need to add more. And that's the way you find how much a person needs. We know everyone needs somewhere between 12 and 50. I do it clinically. So I work my way up to 50. And then I start lowering it until something comes back. And it will come back, like fatigue or something. It will show I don't feel the same. The way I've been taking it for years, and I just sometimes I forget, and then I start gaining weight. Something happens that I go, oh right, I have to go back to iodine. And in patients, it becomes very instinctive because, well, I believe that we have a very strong, close connection to our body. So we know when something's good for us and when something is not good for us. And I think that's a knowledge everyone really has. Okay, so this is, you will find the protocols everywhere. If you look, they're not hard to find. There's forums of doctors, of iodine doctors. And most of the information on iodine, like I was telling Raul, I know you do this evidence-based, but some things don't want to be demonstrated. Okay, so but there's a lot of doctors. There's Dr. Brownstein has written many great books. And for people who are not in medicine, there is a book called The Iodine Crisis that was actually written by a journalist. So it has a very friendly language and explains everything from a very historic point of view. And we're almost over, so hang in there. I know this is a little extensive. The relationship with iodine and radioactive iodine. Well, sorry, I put it in Spanish. I forgot to translate that title. But there are 37 known isotopes of iodine, and only one is not radioactive, and that is Lugol's. All of the others are radioactive. And actually, it's what we call nuclear waste. It's you are sufficient in iodine, you will to a radioactive iodine. If you're not sufficient, you're going to be the opposite, a lot more exposed. Potassium iodide, 50 milligrams of iodine. That is that will be 20 drops of 2% and 8 drops of 5%. That will be 50 milligrams, okay? So remember that this is a problem for all of us because of all the bombing in the Pacific, because of Fukushima. So this is a problem for all of us. And because of that we don't know of that they're still doing, okay? And last but not least, its relation with cancer. So it has 2 ways to stop cancer. And that's why the Merck manual called it the most used substance cancer, just before they had all this information on chemotherapy now. But the direct effect is a disruption of the mitochondrial membrane of malignant cells, okay? And that stimulates apoptosis. And why would it be selective? Because it's an oxidant, okay? So as an oxidant, it will be selective with malignant cells. It's a very mild oxidant, iodine, but it is an oxidant. And the direct effect anti-cancer effect once the tumor is formed. So it's preventive and it's also anti-cancer. So just to any person going through any type of cancer, but especially cancers of the reproductive system or the breast, men or women should absolutely have these as an ally. And women can use 2% iodine drops and tender and lumpy and regain your health because it will flush out all the iodine there. And sorry. Well, more on the same. No? Conclusion, this data demonstrate that the anti-neoplastic effect of iodine involves 6-iodo-lactone formation and PPAR gamma induction. The two mechanisms anti-cancer that have been demonstrated and are still being studied. So thank you. That's me. And I'm ready for your questions. Thank you very much.
Dr. Rita, sorry. Dr. Rita, I am Dr. Yamazita from Brazil. I work with medicine, functional and regenerative medicine also. And congratulations for our brilliant lecture. It
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. It is a very important issue about iodine deficiency because as we see in some books, it is the least researched mineral
Yes.
in science. So we see that it is very important for health. Many issues are related to iodine deficiency, and it is very few researched. I was researching some things, some articles, studies, and we find very few, as you spoke in your lecture, and we find some books, some articles, but very few. I would like to cite some books that I found. I think it's for those that are interested. They can find the book of David Bronstein, as you spoke about it. Iodine, why you need it, why you can't live without it. And another one. And there are some video in YouTube from Dr. Bronstein that we can learn more. Another book, Healing with Iodine, of Dr. Mark Circles. Very good also. And another one, that vitamin D, vitamin C, iodine. Why more is better? So we can see that the minimum supplementation is not enough. What can solve the problems are high doses. So it's important to cite this. And I would like to make some questions that were made during your lecture. Dr. Isnelata Marandi, I don't know which country she is or he is, and he asked, does homemade flour have bromide?
No, it's used as a dough conditioner. So it's from the industry, really. And you can use iodine, potassium iodide as dough conditioner, as it was used in the past as
Okay.
well. One reflection, people today are very aware of supplementations and they want to get all these anti-aging and all the supplements. But like I said, to me, the number one, like if iodine is absent, everything else is not complete until you, because it's so toxic to have it deficient.
I have a question also. How do you measure iodine levels with blood levels, urinary concentrations, or do you use that skin test or the
The skin
symptoms?
test is very not very precise. In my country, there's no way to do it. So I do it clinically, but you could do it with urine. It would be the easiest and cheapest way. But since there's no market for this, you cannot test urine iodine. Like the labs will tell me what, why I don't know if they have the reactives or the means. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question, other questions. Dr. Ricky Avelino Bernabé, how can we replace the iodized salt?
Depends of the country, because for example, in Peru, the legislation of fluoride salt, so it's very strong. So what I do is that I contact the factory and I tell them I want salt that has no iodine and no fluoride. I want it before you touching it. Don't worry about putting iodine in my body. I got that. Because in one drop, I get what 20 kilos of salt would give me, right? So I supplement iodine and just get the most natural possible salt and the most raw possible salt, because that way it will also contain all of the minerals, so it won't be refined, right? Which is linked to hypertension and all the problems that are related to salt is with refined salt. It's not with raw salt. In Peru, we get Maras salt, which is from Cusco, so you can always buy it locally. It depends on the legislation. I was very sad to hear that they're really pushing now for all the salt, even the artisanal salt, to be packed with fluoride. So I don't know why, because they did this. They put fluoride in salt in 1984 to 1985. And the prevalence of dental cavities had changed 0%. Zero. Nothing. Nothing at all. And I know people can brush without using any lead, of course, a dental doctor talk about this, but I think it has a lot to do with diet as well. So I think it depends on the legislation of each country.
Dr. Rita, here in Brazil, many people are using the pink salt from Himalaya. It's a more integral salt. Do you know if it has the adequate dosage of iodine?
No salt will have the adequate dose of the iodine. You need to supplement it, but not because it's a problem with the salt, but because of all the bromide you're getting from other sources.
Okay. Well, we have many questions. Well, there is another question from Dr. Julio Felipe. I don't know which country he is from, and he is telling that it's very important to mention the need of selenium supplementation together with iodine.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's I did mention it. It's very important to get selenium supplementation with iodine.
Okay. Well, let's see if how do you have other questions?
Raul?
Here we have a question from Dr. Rajendra Kumar Jain. I think he's from India. She is telling, thanks for such detailed information about iodine in daily use. Please say more about cancer. Could you tell us more about cancer?
It has two mechanisms against cancer. One is the disruption of the mitochondria of the cancer cells. That is a direct mechanism. And the other mechanism is the activation or the modulation of apoptosis, which is our mechanism in defense of cancer. It also has antiparasitic, detoxification of heavy metals, antibacterial, antiviral. Like when the pandemic started, before I did all my work in chlorine dioxide and other works I did, I just increased my supplementation of iodine. I will go to see patients, COVID patient, and I just increased my supplementation of iodine. I cannot tell
Okay.
you if I cannot, I did not test it if it worked, with a study, but I felt pretty safe.
Let me tell you that in Brazil last month we had an important video that was circulating in YouTube, and many people were commenting that a doctor used iodine, look like Lugol, to treat breast cancer, and he mentioned that it has great results, and he showed that cancer can be dissolved with iodine, but the mainstream media was criticizing his work. But we see that many comments from population, they were telling that iodine was very successful in their cases. So we see that although many people have good results, the mainstream media are against this treatment.
Well, they've used it for breast cancer since the mummies in Egypt. So it's been there, right? There's a way we survived, and there's you can't hide the truth to some extent, right? Like they've given us bromide for 100 years, and now they're just 3 months ago calling it not safe. So yes, I think it should be used in every breast cancer protocol, and why not HIV protocols, or just everyone needs it. It has very specific uses, and it's yet to be studied more, but I'm happy to use it in all my patients. Like if in my first consultation, I start everyone on iodine, selenium, magnesium, vitamin D. Let's do this first, and then we'll talk about nicotinamide, and then we'll talk about all the fancy state-of-the-art new supplements that are everywhere. Let's get the basics. Let's get you first, stabilize your system with what it needs primarily, and then you go for super health, right? First restore, and of course probiotics and bone broth. This is like my zero start protocol to heal the gut and to heal the glands and just the metabolism.
We have another question from Dr. Luis Henrique Estrada Soares. I don't know. Which country are you from, Luis Henrique? He's telling, el lago de mar se puede considerar como un suplemento de yodo?
The seaweed?
Water from sea.
Yes, but you will not get the amount. It has iodine. It has. And I use seawater instead of salt. Like for the instead of the pinch of salt, Sometimes I use seawater that has been, processed. And it's great, but it will not give you the amount you need to compete with all the other allergens around you. So the reason why we need to use high iodine is because the other allergens around us are very high. So we need a dose that can compete with that. And once you saturate all your reserve, then you can start lowering it.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Catherine, she thanks you for so much for the insights. And if we have to supplement it naturally from a good source of seaweed locally available, how much do we have to consume? Else, how much mg can we start with? Mg.
You can start. I wouldn't know because I believe that each seaweed has a particular amount, and I don't know it. And after, if it's dehydrated, if it's cooked, I don't know how much it will be sublimated. So I could not answer that. But if you cannot get a hold of a standardized dose, I also believe that a little iodine is better than no iodine at all. Absolutely. And you could start. I start with the lowest. I start with 2% Lugol, 1 drop, which is 2.25 milligrams, which is still a lot more than what we are taking, if we are taking anything.
Okay. Dr. Snelata Marandi from India, she is asking, should I continue to take 100 micrograms tablet for hypothyroidism because I stopped consuming it?
When I have a patient that's taking thyroid hormones, I don't stop them. I let them continue it. I still do the iodine. I still do all the program. And I don't measure anything until after 4 to 5 months. There is one contraindication that is a autonomous nodule. If a person has an autonomous nodule, it will start growing because the iodine will feed it. But we are so convinced on its important use that I will tell them, have it surgically removed, and then we do it again. If you stop the iodine, if it grew and you stop the iodine, it will go back to how it was. So you just need to stop it. But most tumors or nodules of the thyroid, if they are not autonomous, they will disappear.
Okay.
The thyroid will be healed. It takes some time. There's a special book on Hashimoto's from Dr. Brownstein. I have it here. But yes, there's a special book on thyroid disease that is a very good guide. But yeah, I start iodine and I do not touch the medication. And then later, like 4 months to 5 months, I test the antibodies and then we start removing the medication.
Okay. Dr. Simone Ramos from Brazil, she's asking, do you have experience with Hashimoto's disease getting better with iodine supplementation? In which doses?
Yes, it's also you scale it, and every patient will have their special need because iodine works in our metabolism. So the amount of iodine we need will vary. Like women with large breasts need more iodine, things like that. If yes, I have experience on Hashimoto's, absolutely, and it will heal. But like I said, I will not stop the medication from the beginning. Some patients, I treat them with natural thyroid that it's sometimes very difficult to get because it's glandular thyroid, dehydrated glandular. Some countries allow it, some no. But you want to wait at least 4 to 6 months of iodine supplementation that you have been escalating before you start lowering the thyroid medication. It's slow because it's a detoxification, right? It's not much as a treatment. It's a detoxification and first and a supplementation of something you genuinely need, but it's not in your environment. So once you have it, you will stop being sick from what the deficiency cost, because you will not be deficient anymore. Like saying, how long will it take vitamin D supplementation to heal osteoporosis? So you will need this patient to be nurtured. You will need this patient to exercise, of course, and a lot of measures. Because we are so programmed in time, because we are thinking about medication and pills, and this is different thinking when you do uh, integral medicine or functional medicine. You are restoring a balance, and it will probably need a lot more. It will probably take a long time for it to function perfectly. But that does not mean that you starting it today are getting the person closer to a better health. So there is no time. Some people respond quicker. It probably depends on when did they buy the mattress they use, or if the house where they live, how old is it. And so try not to think on terms of how many months, how many milligrams. Just start little, work your way up, and it's a very transparent effect. Like the patient will immediately say, you know what, I feel so much energy. And then time after that, you know what, my breast stopped hurting, I just realized. So you really do need to make a very detailed history of everything about the patient. And in my gynecologist questions, there's always the breast pain as a predictor of brain cancer, as a very early predictor. In fact, a woman just asked with fibrocystic breast disease, you should take, yes, absolutely. It's crying for it. It's really crying for it, because your body is reacting against the bromide in it, that in the middle of the cycle, some hormones will activate. And in the absence of iodine, the molecular base of such hormones is bromide. So that's why it's creating this inflammation, and it's your body is responding to it. But I'm telling you, the fibrocystic, the pain in the breast will disappear within 2 to 3 months, probably, of taking it regularly. But the effects, the immediate effects, like if you start taking it now, I'm sure, like you will feel it. You will feel something changes, especially energy levels. Remember to always take it in the mornings or the first half of the day, because it's an energetic supplement. So you need to take it in the mornings. And what else I can say about this? I also recall when I started supplement, I always do everything, like I tell everyone to do it slowly, but I started with 50 milligrams myself. And I felt my thyroid for 3 days. I felt like I had a hand on my neck. Like the sensations in my thyroid were very strong. And I just thought I would trust the process. And it was just a sensation. And it was there like for 2 weeks, but it started lowering and it got better with salt. So this was a personal decision. I trusted the process. I did the same with chlorine dioxide. Like I took like the heaviest, most savage dose that could ever be taken. But it's because I trusted things that have been around thousands of years, right? I wouldn't do that with any other things. And anyway, that my experience was very global. And now that I take it, I have no sensation at all. And I take a lot, because all what I don't need, I will just excrete it in my urine.
Dr. Rita, I would like to make a comment. I see that my patients, after introducing Lugol, the TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone, it used to increase.
Yes.
How many months that we can expect it returns to normal levels? In
4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months, yes. It will be increased because it's stimulating the creation of new importers, of new receptors. So yes, everyone increases. That's why I don't test it. I see the patient clinically.
I think it's important to make this advice because many people many doctors can think that, oh, your thyroid is worse with Ilugol or Yodan, but it's really it's getting better.
Yes, unfortunately, we do not have those studies yet being because like I told Raul, there's so much I cannot show evidence for because there isn't any, like there isn't any evidence of a lot of things that we're doing now that are giving great health to people, and there's also so much misleading evidence on things that, you know, allegedly heal, right? But yes, I think as a functional doctor or integrative doctor, the way you see a patient is completely different from like I see all these tests now, allergy tests and microbiota tests, and then all of a sudden everyone's allergic to eggs. And I'm just saying, if you don't balance your patient first, whatever you test is going to show positive. Like, why would you do a gut test on a person that's been using gluten for all his life? It will show you, like, if you had an anaphylactic shock and you eat peanuts the next day, you're going to have another anaphylactic shock. And it does not mean you're allergic to peanuts. It's just that you're hypersensitive to any allergen, to anything that's in your environment. So I think just the way us functional doctors perceive the patients and see them, it has a completely different criteria for us. Like sometimes I see a lab test and I see that it looks normal, but I see a tendency, right? So you look for the tendency, and even if it's within normal, like if you see, I don't know, liver enzymes, they are in 32. Oh, that's normal. No, it's not normal. They were 12. So we think different in terms of how long it takes to a patient to heal, or if the body is healing, it's obvious. If the body is getting sicker, it's obvious as well. I think you should just really listen to your patient, and sometimes I agree for them to do things that I don't use. For example, mistletoe or birm and colostrum, bovine colostrum. There's some things that are not tools that I use, but I allow them. And I say, you know what? I don't use that, but I'll allow it. And let's see how you feel, right? So this is the same. It's very intuitive. It is doctor-patient oriented the first weeks, and then the patient will know, oh, I need my salt. Oh, I feel I can increase it now. And they will just become the owners of their own iodine supplementation.
Another question, Dr. Catherine. Would bromide toxicity have anything to do with Bartholomew cysts or vaginal canal tumors? And will we start with iodine at 2 milligram help? And how gradually do we increase the dose and to how much milligram?
So this is a case of cervix cancer that's going to start at 2 milligrams?
Yes.
Yeah. And how do we ascertain what could be an ideal dose for us?
Important thing when patients are, for example, are taking chemotherapy, and I'm glad you asked this question. When they are, what I do, you don't want to detox the chemotherapy because if you decided to use it, you need to let it do its work. So 3 days before any treatment of chemotherapy, you stop all supplementation. 6 days before I lower it to half, and 3 days before I stop it. And then they do the chemotherapy, you let it work for the time it will. It usually works for the time the patient feels bad, which is maybe different for every drug, but it's like 5 to 7 days. And then you start the supplementation again. If you start 2 milligrams, that would be, well, you cannot find 2 milligrams from Lugol's or Yodoral. It's 2.25, but that would be 1 drop of 225, 1 drop of 5%. No, 1 drop of 2%. It's 2.25. So yes, that's the lowest, and I would every 3 days add 1 drop. Every 3 days, if you really want to achieve a higher dose quicker. And if a person at, I don't know, 5 drops feels something, then you stop for 3 days, but continue the salt. Continue the salt or the seawater, so you can help flush out all the bromide, because you do need to keep in mind something. Whatever the person feels is not the iodine, it's the bromide. It's that you have removed more bromide that you can efficiently flush out of her system. So what you want to do is stop the iodine and do 3 days of only salt and magnesium and selenium and all the others and vitamin C. And then you start back at the last dose that was comfortable for the patient. And then stay there longer, maybe not 3 days, but 1 week, and then work your way up. Like I said, there's not a specific rule. Every person is different, and then you can also talk to the patient and say some of the things you will feel are normal, but they require you to take more salt. Like, for example, in dark thoughts, I started supplementing my best friend, and she called me one day, and we were talking on the phone, and I felt she was just she was about to get a divorce, really. She was like talking about her husband, and she was very irritated. And I said, "Dearie, did you take your salt today?" And she was like, "Oh, I forgot." And I was like, "Go take your salt and I'll call you back." And like we talked, and like it was an hour later. It's really quick, the effect of the salt, because salt is so quick to be absorbed and to act as like electrical. And she told me, I remember her words, because she said, "I feel sorry for the woman who was on the phone with you an hour ago." Like it's very, if you get bromide in your brain, it's like, it is a neurotoxin. It's a very strong neurotoxin. So, like I said, this is one of the most intuitive detoxes, because it's very clear what it does for you. It's very clear what you're getting rid of. Like the salt protocol, when you flush out bromide, it flushes out. And in my experience, I also had the back pain. And since I never had a urinary tract infection, I thought it was like a muscular lumbar thing. And I took some NSAIDs for the pain, and I took everything, and it wouldn't go away. And I took some salt, and it was so quick. I was like, oh, that's what it was all along. And I do ozone treatments, and I put ozone on myself in my muscles, and it wouldn't go away.
Dr.
And I was like,
Rita,
what's going on, you know?
we
Sure,
are almost finishing, but I would like to make just one more question
sure.
about topic use or injectable use. Do you have some experience?
Yes,
Uh,
I've had experience in mollusco, this disease in children, molusco contagioso es
yeah,
in
yes,
Spanish, ¿sí?
yes, in children. Okay.
Yes, and I took a Q-tip and just put in each one of them, and they were gone in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the
Okay.
most, because it's a virus that will usually last for 1 to 10 years, and it will not go away. And it
Yes.
went away. It went away, topical use, and for painful breast, topical use also. So I'm sorry I talked too much and did not allow you to finish your questions.
Okay. Well, but we are finishing our session, and I would like to ask you for your
For topic,
take-home
you
message.
want the lowest concentration. Sorry, friend.
Okay.
For topic, the lowest concentration. And if you're going to use it a lot, like in your breast, you want to put some coconut oil before to protect the skin.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you uh, make your take-home message? We are finishing our session. Well, Dr. Simone, we are finishing now. Sorry.
You can find me in my social media as Doctora Rita Denegri and ask me anything you like.
Yeah, thank you, Rita. It's been a pleasure, as always, to talk with you, to share with you some insights regarding the importance of a lot of topics that we have been playing around since about 3 years. But I'd like you to give a final message to our audience regarding what you consider the most relevant topic regarding iodine supplementation or your conference.
Well, the most relevant is that it's the same that I started. I believe this to be the most important supplements for 3 reasons. The fact that it's not around us, we are surrounded by its competitor, and it has 3 important roles in our body that has to do with metabolism, immunity, and cancer defense. And now that it's also important, radioactive defense. So for that reason, I want you to all find a drop of Lugos and have it in the house of everyone you love and start using it now, and also have some, they will last for years. They last for years and like 10 years. So just keep it around with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yamashita, and all of you that have been attending to this conference today. We will adjourn our session, and we want to give a big acknowledgement to our team of translators. Without this conference loses its interculturality and international diffusion. Today, we had the opportunity to have with us to Denise Cipulo and Selene Santos with English to Portuguese and vice versa. Sonia Amadeo from English to Spanish, who translated the whole two hours, as well as from English to Italian, Stefania Bonacci. Unfortunately, we lost contact with Kavya Kadia from India, from English to Hindi. Additional thanks to Donají Rodriguez, nutritionist Maria Fernanda Iturbe, Dr. Frida Rosas, Vivian Freitas from Paraguay, and Patricia Gawa from Peru for their immense daily help to our organization. They represent a new generation of professionals committed from a very, very young age to their communities and the world's population. A special thanks to Engineer David Garcia from the College of Science and Humanities at Campus Vallejo, who edited the DFW opening countdown and organizational video. They are all a source of pride for us. Be sure to visit us in our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and website, www.doctorsfederationfortheworld.org, for more information on how to become a member and benefits. If you like this session, we strongly encourage to become a member and help us to continue with our mission. On behalf of all of us at DFW, the steering committee, and staff and translators, we thank you for your presence and questions at this session, and we wish you a wonderful weekend. Greetings from 5 continents throughout the world. We saw people from Costa Rica, Italy, Brazil, India, of course, a lot of people from India, Mexico, and also from Paraguay and Peru, and United States. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant and wonderful weekend. Thank you, Dr. Rita. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rita. Thank you, Raul.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Yamashita. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also. Thank you all the interpreters also.
Thank you for the interpreters. Yes, thank you so much.
See you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.